Hello there, welcome back to Thriving Generation with Dr. G. It's another exciting day and a good day for us to thrive. Today, I'm excited and we are going to talk more about financial wellness. And we are looking at different topics related to financial wellness. This is going to be multiple videos, so please be looking out for the rest. If you don't watch everything, come back later, there will be more for you. If you like what we are doing here, I'll just say that please subscribe, like this video, and share, and come back for more. We always have something for you to learn. Okay, well, I'm not going to drag this any longer. Let's go ahead and meet our guest for today. Mr. Armah, or should I say Joseph, or should I say Joe, or should I say Mr. Joe? Please, what's your title?
Joseph is fine.
Oh,
Joseph Armah.
just Joseph. Okay,
Joseph
please.
Armah is fine.
Joseph Armah. Okay. Please introduce yourself to the thriving generation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and to talk about things that we find very exciting. I'm always very excited to talk about financial well-being, planning, wealth generation. Well, my name is Joseph Armah. I am a father, a husband, a brother, a lifelong learner, a friend, a mathematician, an engineer, a wealth management advisor. So this is, these are the attributes that sort of describe who I am.
Mm, amazing. We all need somebody with all these attributes in our lives, you know? It's amazing. So please just give us a little bit about your educational background. We want to know where you started from and where you are right now in terms of education.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked that question because it always helps us in terms of context. I'm so privileged to have had my education on three different continents.
Mm,
I grew up, I think, my formative years in Ghana, where I went all the way from, primary school through secondary school. I spent some time at Nanao Saint-John in the eastern region in Sawam, and then I went to Adisadel College in Cape Coast. And
mm,
then from there, I left to the United Kingdom, where I did my last 2 years of what we'll potentially call sixth form, and then or SSS, senior SSS, or last 2 years of high school. And then from there, I came to the United States, where I did my undergraduate degree in mathematics and engineering, and my
mhm,
graduate degree in um, business management.
mm.
So that's really the trajectory of my life when it comes to my education. But obviously, I'm constantly learning because I really believe in the concept of lifelong learner.
Amazing. Amazing. Lifelong learner. We are always learning. We are always learning. But you are here today because I know that you are in the financial services. So how did you get there? Do you want more money in life? That's why you decided to go there?
Wow, wow, wow. I think, they say more money actually brings more problems.
I don't
But
know if I agree with that, but
well, we'll have to talk
hey.
about that. But I think all of us do know that our finances are important.
Yes.
And I sort of didn't start by thinking of going to the financial services sector. I
Mm,
actually was very, very focused on my engineering and mathematics degrees, and that's all I cared about. Obviously, growing up in Ghana, you are so excited about choosing your topic so earlier on that I literally chose the path of being a scientist. It was
mm,
after I spent my time in the UK, I started really getting into the liberal arts, things beyond just my field. And then when I came to Swarthmore, I was doing the engineering, I started thinking about financial markets. And I obviously like applied mathematics. So I started thinking about financial derivatives and those things. And then I was lucky enough to be recruited from Swarthmore to join one of the biggest institutions when it comes to financial services investment management and hedge funds, and that is Bridgewater Associates. And so I thought the opportunity was great at the time, and it still is. And so I decided to embark on a different journey because my skills were so much sought after in terms of the way I
Mm.
think, the way I can apply my thinking to the problems that were being solved at the time. So I embarked on that journey, and that's what led me to financial services in the first place. So it
Amazing.
wasn't an intentional, decision to just join financial services. One that came based on the experiences that I've had, and in terms of what I could offer that service. Um,
Amazing. Amazing. That's a good motivation. But wanting more money is also a good motivation.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I
Yes.
think people go into financial services for different reasons. I
Yes.
think
Yes.
one of them being that it's very, in the initial stages, it's a very hard field,
Okay.
and it's very time consuming, it's long hours, so you
Okay.
have to really like what you are doing. Those who go into investment banking will attest to the fact that you're working until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and so if you don't really like it then you're going to have a tough time. But the rewards, exactly, especially in the initial years, are very, 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 very enticing because you can make
Mm.
a lot of money in the
Okay.
in your early years, more than in most fields. So you can see young folks 2021 making a lot of money. By 2024, they are making money in, making their earnings are in the 6 and 7 figures. So it's really
Mm.
enticing for people to join the financial services sector. But what is actually, from my perspective, more rewarding is to make sure that your own personal goals are aligned with not just the money, but that in the long run you're going to be fulfilled.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. And I think that was leading to my next question, which was there are people listening to us and some desire to be financial advisors or bankers or whatever other, you have different sectors in there. You are already there. What advice do you have for them? Maybe I find it more useful when you talk about your challenges and your successes. In that way, we can know the real thing on the ground. So, can you share with us? Let's start with some of the challenges you faced as a financial advisor, and then we'll move on to the successes.
Oh, all right. So, in the financial services industry, depending on where exactly you fit in, it's a very big industry.
Yeah.
So there are folks who work with, we talk about retail, which is working with individuals. Then there
Okay.
are folks who work with corporates. So earlier on in my life, I spent most of my time working with organizations, institutions, mostly in the corporate section. So when I
Mhm.
worked at GE, Bridgewater, it was mostly thinking from a corporate perspective. And oftentimes, emotions are sort of left aside. You don't really get into the emotions of, the people you are working with as such. It's really about representing the organization and the company and doing the right quote unquote deals for the
Okay.
organization or the company. Then the retail sector is where you actually end up working with individuals. So
Mm.
you have to work with, let's say, I talk to Dr. G. I'm like, Dr. G, let's talk about what you need from a finance perspective. And so now we get to talk about her goals, her aspirations, and that's where the emotional stuff comes in. Because now it's not just, working with just somebody, you're working with somebody who has, emotional attributes as well. And so with those emotional attributes, you have to really now get to know them better, get to know what their goals are, get to know what they're excited about, and that is what creates the different dynamics. So in my practice, I talk about, you know, emotional therapy. Because if you
Mm.
don't solve those fundamental problems and you don't get to know the person, and then you wouldn't be able to know what their goals are and how they can react in the different aspects. So
Yeah.
it all depends on where you find yourself. I think if you find yourself in the retail sector where you are working directly with individuals, you have to be very excited about psychology, because a
Mm.
lot of people make decisions based on their emotional state. So
Yeah.
being able to understand what the emotional state is going to help you to better serve those clients that you want to work with. Whereas if you're working with, like back in the day, I'm building an energy power plant in California as an example. Yes, there is that human aspect, the emotional aspect, but it's really an institutional perspective to finance, and that's totally different.
Wow. 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 Okay, but you started as an engineer. Now you are a financial advisor. So, what are some of the challenges you've experienced in, should I say, the switch in career or the mixture in career?
That's such a great question. I think, it's all, when you, and just as a follow up to what I was just saying,
Yes.
it all depends on the person you're working with. So I have different types of clients. There are some clients who are very analytical. So that engineering perspective really helps. They just want to get to the numbers. They just want to make sure that the numbers make sense. They just want to make decisions based on concrete evidence. And so, me
Mm,
being an engineer really helps me to better serve those people. Now, there is another group of clients who are not really interested so much in the numbers, but
mm,
in terms of the sort of the emotional part, decision making at a higher level. So when you come in as a systems kind of guy, like I am, I'm like, if I'm talking to an engineer, I know what drives them, how they're gonna make a decision. But when I'm talking to somebody who's, as some of the attorneys who are not interested in knowing some of the fun, the final workings of a particular product or anything like that, then I have to really work towards that emotional part to make sure that it makes sense. I'm addressing their needs. And so that is a challenge that I do sometimes have. But that's why I talk about psychology is important. So I spend a lot of my energies and times learning
mm,
about psychology and how to work with people and how to get them to understand what I'm doing. And I think that really helps. But I
yeah.
think in terms of training, in terms of who you have to work with, the most exciting thing about this type of work is that you can work with anybody. And
Okay.
so, because you can work with anybody, it's like having a life coach. People are going to walk into your door with different views, different aspirations, different backgrounds. And so, you, as the person servicing them, as you have to be interested, not just interesting. So you have to be
Okay.
interested in the person who is talking to you and to learn more about what their situation is, not just you being an interesting person. That's a totally different game. So I think the dynamics is in this sector, yes, you're going to work with people who are very different from you or could be very similar to you, but you have to be interested in what they have to offer. And I think that's one of the challenges that you have to address if you walk this path.
Wow. Wow. But what about the rewards? What are some of the successes you've enjoyed in your career?
Um, One of the reasons why I stepped into this field is I wanted to build a legacy.
Okay.
I feel like we as for the most part, I have an immigrant mentality, which is you go and go and go and go and go and go and go. But at the same time, I also feel like one of the rewards that I get from this type of work is to helping people write their own stories. And I'm just an enabler in helping them writing their stories. And so I'm
Mm,
building a legacy through working with these people, knowing where they are and where they want to be, and to being able to be part of the story that they are writing. And by so doing, I'm leaving a footprint. I'm leaving my legacy. And obviously, when I build my company and it's successful, extremely successful, that's an obvious thing to look at and say, oh yes, he built a company. But for me, the most important thing is actually the stories that we are building together, the stories
mm,
that we are writing together, because I think those stories and the memories that are created through the conversations that we have to write the stories is what is actually going to last. Obviously, there's financial reward that's all obviously comes with it, and obviously, there is that social aspect of being able to create a very huge network of people to work with and to rely on and to reach out to. I think one of the things that I have learned through this career is that, when you are very focused working with a particular company, you
mhm.
just make connections based on the people who are going to help you within that organization.
I
But this
see.
profession offers me the opportunity to reach out, to stretch, and to get into to be uncomfortable in certain situations so that I can enlarge my network.
That's amazing. In working with individuals, have you had a situation where somebody blamed you for a decision that was made?
Well, knock wood, I haven't really had an issue of that nature because part of the practice is to be able to make sure that you are fully explaining to clients what they are getting into. So in our line
Mm,
of business, we talk about fiduciary suitability, things of that nature. So, and these are all important words when it comes to the legal aspect of things, because if a client cannot do certain things, you should not be encouraging the clients to do those things.
okay.
So one of the things that I try as much as I can is to explain to the client what their limitations are,
Yeah.
have an agreement on the decision making. Now the truth is the client's life.
Yeah.
You are just an enabler to help them write their story, as I was talking about. So
Yeah.
your job is not to tell, you're supposed to tell them what to do, but the final decision rests on the client.
Okay.
And
I
so that's
see.
how it is. But obviously, I do believe that there might be certain circumstances where a client might say, "I'm not ready to do this," and then you have to explain to them or talk to them about these are the options that you're leaving on the table, um,
I
and
see.
that is totally different. And you just have to make sure that and that's why the psychology is so important, because you have to make sure you understand how the client makes a decision. So for example, if our value systems are misaligned,
Mm-hmm.
then it's better for us not to work together.
Okay. I see.
And so that is one of the key points. You have to make sure that your value systems are aligned, that you are clearly understood by the client. And these are just fundamental things that you have to do.
And I guess it goes the same way for the client. So if listeners right now are not financial advisors, but they want to find somebody to discuss their financial goals with, what would be your advice? Can you give us maybe run through maybe 4 or 5 lists to look out for? So when I'm going, I have my list. Number one, do you qualify? 1, 2, check. Number two, okay. So what kind of things should we look out for when we are looking for financial advisors?
I think the first one you have to look at is alignment with respect to your value system.
Okay.
I think I have the privilege of working with folks who are, for example, I'm aligned with from a religious perspective.
Okay.
And so when you align with somebody in certain core beliefs systems, it makes it a little easier to explain yourself to the person
Hmm.
in terms of where you are going, right? So I think really your belief system should be fully aligned. So the
Okay.
second thing that I think is important to talk about is being clear on what you are trying to achieve with the advisor.
Okay.
Because oftentimes people walk up to you and they say, I want a financial advisor, without
Mm.
making it clear, especially, without making it clear what area they want to work with you on.
Okay.
So you have to have the alignment of scope, right? So financial advisors are, for the most part, wealth managers that are trained, the ones that I really associate with, to have to provide you with comprehensive financial planning.
Okay.
So they have to look at everything, kick the wheels of your car, your tires, whatever, to make sure they know everything that needs to be done before making a recommendation.
I see.
So you will have to have alignment of values. You
Mm-hmm.
also have to be clear with respect to scope,
Okay.
right? Because if the scope is not clearly defined, then it leads to people not being comfortable with the relationship and not knowing exactly what they have to look out for.
Okay.
And then, the third bucket that I think is pretty important is, what are the qualification of the
Hmm.
person that you are working with?
Okay.
You have to understand, are they certified? Maybe can they actually do securities trading? Can they sell insurance? Can they do estate planning? Do they have a background in some of these things? So you have to at least qualify them. I say qualify them,
Hmm.
making sure that they can actually do some of these things that you want them to do.
Is
So
there
I
a
think those,
particular certificate we should look out for, like a degree in something, or
well, I think
just ask in
yeah,
general?
I think you have to definitely make sure ask them and ask them about their training.
Okay.
The question I would say is like, somebody can, have, and for the lack of a better explanation, they can have a PhD in a certain subject, but beyond their very narrow scope defined by their PhD doesn't mean that they are highly qualified in that scope, outside of that scope. Whereas
Mm,
there could be somebody whose life experiences puts them in a situation to do an actually a very good job. But
okay.
I do think that another question that needs to be asked here is, one, what is your why in becoming a
Mm,
financial advisor? Because I think that tells, um, a, it tells quite a bit of the story. Because if you understand their why are you in this service?
mm,
Why do you want to work with individuals? And I think there's a lot that can be gleaned from that type of discussion. But there are certifications like certified financial planner. There could be people who have certified financial advisor. There's a slew of certifications that you can look for if you want
okay.
to go if you want to go by the certificate. But I think at the end of the day, some of the things that I said earlier on, alignment in values, alignment in scope of work,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
understanding their why,
mm-hmm.
and making sure that you have some sort of a way to communicate, sort of some of the
Yeah.
important things and
Yeah.
qualifications.
Yeah, and then what I am getting is that it depends on what you are looking for from the person. So we are all looking for different things, but what you need is the person able to provide the advice you need. So maybe look for some kind of evidence that the person has done this before or is able to do that for you. So if you are buying securities, what shows that the person can help you do that? If you are into real estate, can the person help you do that? So just that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have more on your list?
No, I think that was those are the points that I wanted.
Well, we are going to have more conversations about financial wellness and so many good stuff on the way. But thank you so much for joining us today. We are grateful for this. Listeners out there, please, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. Joseph Amma will be very happy to respond to them for you, and I will be back to check them out. And what did you learn from this brief introduction? Kindly let us know. Remember, we are learning from each other, and stay tuned for more on financial wellness. See you in the next video. Bye.